working? No, it's not working yet. Yeah, the Facebook is not connecting yet, so don't post it yet. Okay. Let's see, why is it not working? Streaming key, that's a different streaming key. Okay, let's see something. Okay, let's try that now. Okay. Here we go. Yeah. Okay, let's see. All right, now testing. Okay, now tell me, is it, how's the sound? Facebook's live. Sounds good. All right. Very good. B'Shem Hashem na'aseh v'natzliach, shiur Torah, bruchim habayim. We are back, Baruch Hashem, after a big break. We had Pesach, we had another surgery, we had lots of good things, Baruch Hashem, shtabach shem al'ad. And now we are back to learning with you, and Be'ezrat Hashem, we will succeed in all the good things we do, Baruch Hashem, together. Tonight's shiur is going to be for the Refuah Shlema of Rabbanit Levana Bat Sarah, Rav Ephraim ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Sarah Bat Anat, Avi Mori David ben Esriya, Imi Morati Doris Bat Jora, Sarah Bat Levana, and all of Am Yisrael and all the righteous Noahides that continue to learn with us, continue to support the organization, all the amazing things that Baruch Hashem we've been doing over these years, and especially these last couple of months. Anyone that contributed to the Kimcha, the Pischa, the Pesach distribution certainly has a whole lot more merits in their account than they could possibly imagine. As Baruch Hashem, we reached close to 20,000 people that tzaddikim that were able to eat and enjoy Pesach like it's supposed to be. And we've even had some people that actually got the point that really contributed multiple times. Every time they got money, they contributed more and more. Ashrechem v'ashrech elkechem. Anyone that wants to donate could donate at be'ezrathashem.org. We have multiple ways on the website that you could donate over there, whether it's PayPal or a regular credit card or Bitcoin or cryptocurrency or whatever else you want, you can, or you could simply send us a digital check, a picture of the check, the front and back, or send it in the mail like many people do. Lots of ways to support Baruch Hashem. And of course, after the big battle we've had with the Satan himself over these last few months, after the hijacking of the accounts, Baruch Hashem, we got all of the channels back. The Tshuva Music channel is back. The BH Kids channel is back. All of the different languages, Chinese, Spanish, German, Portuguese, Russian, Indonesian, Baruch Hashem, the Korean channel, all of the channels are back. So anyone that speaks multiple languages or simply wants to see some of our other shurim in different languages has the opportunity to do so. Baruch Hashem, we have all of that going on. And anyone that wants to order some of the books to distribute in their community can go to kiruvstore.org. That's back on as well. So with that being said, Rabotai, we have a lot to learn. We have some catching up to do on Rabbi Elimelech of Legenzk's Holy Torah, where he's in essence teaching us the diet of the Hasidim, the Mekubalim. Lots of people ask me questions about different things. They want to know about Kabbalah, they want to know about different sgulot, they want to know the future, they want to do a lot of different things, but the truth is that to delve into the world of Kabbalah, it's not just about reading a book. I mean, there are plenty of books out there that a person can read and simply waste their time completely because they won't understand a single thing. And in fact, if you delve into Kabbalah without having the know-how and the necessary tools, you could easily become a heretic as a result of the confusion. This is the reason, at least one of several reasons, of why the Chachamim said that a person should not study the Zohar, which includes Kabbalah in it, until the age of 40, because that's usually the amount of time that a typical person would require to study all of the other foundational teachings from the Shulchan Aruch, from the Gemara, from the Mishnah, from Sifrei Chazal, Musar, all the other things that are necessary to learn before a person delves into it. But tonight, we're going to continue what Rabbi Elimelech has already started, which is really the diet of the tzaddikim, the diet really of the mekubalim. How do they eat different than the average person out there? And we'll review, since it's been a long time since we've had this shiur, almost a couple of months, we'll briefly review some of what it started with, and then obviously continue this section 15 together, Be'ezrat Hashem. So Rabbi Elimelech obviously is not your typical teacher out there. This is one of the foundational teachings of the world of Chassidut. And if a person wants to, at the very least, understand the difference between them and the holy sages they read about, whether it be from Chassidut, or needless to say, from the time of the Shulchan Aruch, or the Gemara, then this diet of the tzaddikim, diet of the Kabbalists, should give us a certain perspective to show the difference, the world of difference, because to measure intellect, a person is not able to do unless they possess intellect, meaning you cannot evaluate what the Talmud really has until you study the Talmud and actually understand what it says, which takes years to do. So of course, the criticizers and the fools will always pretend like they know what they're talking about, whether it's trying to pretend like they understand the inner workings of it, or trying to manipulate certain text that's in there. And they do this with the Torah on a regular basis. And unfortunately, there are many people that are ignorant and do not realize that they're being fed lies. So they listen to these heretics, they listen to these fools that have never actually studied the Talmud. So in order to judge something, a person really has to know it. The same thing if you want to judge a doctor, you have to know medicine. If you want to judge a scientist, you have to know science. If you want to judge a mathematician, you have to know math. Not just your 1 + 1 = 2, but a whole lot more. You have to be at the level of someone to judge in order for you to really have a understanding. But we don't have enough time to get everyone up to speed in order to get everyone to understand what everything is. So we're spoon feeding everything to you so you can have a better understanding. Really the separation between a person that's living today versus the people that we read about, the people that we quote in the Torah. And with something that is as simple as their diet. How did they eat? We're not just talking about what did they eat. We're talking about how did they eat. A person can measure themselves and deceive themselves to think that they are better than others until push comes to shove and there's problems in front of them, and then you get to see how a person reacts. Just like the Gemara says, a person is judged based on how do they behave when they get angry, how do they behave when they have some alcohol in them, and how do they behave when there's money issues. The kosoki sova kaso. How do they behave under these circumstances? You see who a person really is and how he really thinks once he's angry and he says certain things, or she's angry and she says certain things. Sometimes people can become very vindictive or very evil in their speech. And you say, whoa, how could she say such a thing? Listen, this is her deeper thought. No, she was angry. You're right, she was angry when she said it, but those angry words did not come from nothing. They were in there, and she only allowed herself to say them once she's angry. But you should know that's what she thinks. Certainly, it's something to work on. The same concept when it comes to somebody that has alcohol in them. If they drink and they get tipsy, you start hearing them say all types of nonsense. It's like, oh, how could they say such a thing? No, don't be surprised. This is what they think. Yes, they don't say this normally when they're not drunk, but they said it now because that's actually what's within them. They just have more control typically. And last but not least, when it comes to money, you get to see who a person is when it comes to money. Do they appreciate it? Are they grateful for it? Are they a thief? Are they a liar? Do they try to get over on people? Do they think that everyone is stupid except them? There are a lot of people like that assume that everyone is stupid. No one knows math. No one knows calculations except them. And they happen to forget the price. They happen to forget they paid or they didn't pay. And this is, unfortunately, a standard in the world. But a person that wants to learn the ways of the tzaddikim, of the righteous people, wants to first and foremost evaluate themselves. Not because they are going to become one of these tzaddikim overnight, because that's just simply not going to happen despite how much a person may try, but rather because if I'm going to listen to someone in order to change my life, I want to know they are greater than me. I want to know they are smarter than me. I want to know they are simply better. And therefore I will listen to them. And of course, if a person hears a certain halacha that a rabbi said, whether it be Rabbi Ovadia or the Rabbi Yosef Karo or be in the Gemara, wherever it would be, if a person is going to share their opinion about this halacha, first and foremost, they should know who they're dealing with before they decide to disagree. Now, if you're just simply going to say, okay, that's what the rabbi said, that's what I'm going to do, then fine. You don't need to know how great the rabbi is because your actions show you know that whatever the rabbi said, whatever the sage has said, certainly is better than what you can possibly evaluate on your own. But if you're going to say, well, I'm not really sure if the rabbi was right about this, the rabbi did this, before a person does such a thing, they have to evaluate, is this rabbi greater than me? Do I have the wherewithal to debate this rabbi that dedicated decades and decades upon his life to serving Hashem and learning, and I'm only learning for a few months or a few years? Do I have the tools? The more a person knows, the more a person can evaluate and come up to the right conclusion. Now, unfortunately, most people think that Talmidei Chachamim, the Torah scholars, are just like them, and they just because they put their pens on one leg at a time, just like you do, therefore they're just like you. Just because they're human, you're human, and you make a mistake. A lot of heretics have come out of the woodworks in the last few years since the whole coronavirus scandal of the Satan came out. That fooled literally the majority of the world, and needless to say, many religious Jews, into thinking that they know better than the rabbis, regardless of whether they agreed with the vaccine or disagreed. Many people lost their respect to Torah sages during the last few years because they forgot they never had respect for them, and once push came to shove and they needed to respect the Torah scholars, they simply didn't have it, so they debated against Torah giants. So the easiest way I can think of evaluating where we stand versus where these Torah sages stand is simply by seeing how they behaved in something that we all do, since we cannot compare our Torah scholarship, and even if we did, the competition would be over in a second. We could all compare our eating habits to theirs. Rabbi Elazar is telling you instructions of what he and other tzaddikim do, some until this day, which I'll give you some examples later, Bezat Hashem. And you compare it to what you do. So the segment started where Rabbi Elazar says that before you start eating, before even washing your hands, you make a special prayer that's the prayer of Rabbeinu Yonah called Tfilat Hashav. We went over that prayer in the previous shiur. You can go to that shiur and listen to it, see what that actual prayer says. In so many words, a person does similar tshuva before eating than they do or are supposed to do on Yom Kippur. And this is every meal. Then after that, after eating some bread, another prayer. A prayer that you're pleading with Hashem, telling him the only reason why you're eating in the first place is in order to have the ability to serve him. Not because you're trying to feel healthy so you could have a six-pack and muscles, not because you like the taste, not because you worked really hard on making this food. No. For the sake of the union of the Holy One and the Shekhinah, I do not eat in order to have physical enjoyment, God forbid, but only to keep my body healthy and strong to serve God. Let no sin, transgression, evil thought, and physical pleasure prevent the unification of the Holy One, which results from the uplifting of the sparks of holiness in this food and drink. See here, we already see that the purpose behind eating for tzaddikim is very different. That Kabbalist, if he's a real Kabbalist, and he's able to do things that are beyond the norm, whether it be supernatural things or blessings that come true or whatever it is, you could be sure when he eats, it's not like when you eat. And that makes a lot of difference. Why? Because eating is a big part of everybody's day. I mean, there are people that literally make their entire careers off of food, whether it's selling food, making food, publicizing food. There are people that have channels. I have a couple of students that do this. They're in the food business. One of them has like a channel on social media of how he shows people how to make food in a healthy way. And he has people that follow him, and that's in essence how, I guess, how he makes a living. So food is a huge part of everybody's day. I mean, sometimes people spend a little bit too much time on it, but nonetheless, when a person spends their time eating because of taste, because of pleasure, they could already see from the first second that they are as far from the Mekubal, from the Tzaddik, and even from a elevated Torah scholar, than you can possibly imagine. In fact, one of the Chachamim that commented on this, the Anagot of Rabbi Shmuel Valtzis, in the Midrash Pinchas, writes that even during the meal, you should continue praying 2 to 3 times. Look at your Sfarim, get a Sefer, maybe a Gemara, maybe a Musar book, whatever it is, during the meal. And think about Torah, think about some chidush that you heard your rabbi say. The average person, when he has food in front of him, the only thing he wants to think about, where's the ketchup? Well, I can't believe there's no salt. Can you get me a drink? I finished mine. That's what they think about. They're not thinking about praying another time. They're thinking about, oh, she didn't make that salad? I really like that salad. I don't understand. Why did she make that salad? I really like the salad. She knows I like the salad. He's angry about the fact that his wife didn't make a salad. That's all what's on his mind. To elevate another prayer, even if he did a prayer beforehand, it's already a big deal. So here, Chamim already tell us, look, we treat food differently. We treat food as an opportunity to connect to Hashem. We spoke about this in the series of Jewish intimacy. This was one of the things that the Ramban, Nachmanides, already discussed over 700 years ago, how it pertains to intimacy. But needless to say, here, on the day-to-day life, Rabbi Elimelech is saying, you want to be a Hasid? It starts with your day-to-day life. You eat, no problem. No one's telling you not to eat. Many people think you need to fast 50 million times in order to be a tzaddik. No, you don't. You can eat. The question is, why are you eating? How much are you eating? What are you eating? What's the purpose behind your eating? What do you do when you're eating? What do you do after you eat? Because the Torah tells us many times that the table that a person has his food on is like a mizbeach. It's like an altar where you could elevate that food as if it's a sacrifice to Hashem. And of course, this is not simple by any stretch of the imagination. And it's not something that we expect everyone or anyone to do right this second, watching this lecture, but it certainly will give us a perspective of where we stand. Furthermore, Rabbi Elimelech says, whenever you eat and drink, remember that the taste in your mouth when you chew and swallow is the inner holiness and the holy sparks of that food. And that by eating, chewing, and digesting, you're extracting the food's holiness so that it does not become waste and nourish the chitzonim, the externalities, the forces of evil. Wow, what is he talking about here? Rabbi Elimelech is looking at things from his holy eyes and a perspective that the average person is not even aware exists. And he's telling us that that food that you eat, that drink that you're drinking, it gives you a certain taste. That taste, even though you, your wife, your husband, the chef in the kitchen, whoever made that food, put certain ingredients in order for it to taste that way, those taste buds in your mouth enjoy it or reject it as a result of Hashem's will. And in fact, when you have that taste in your mouth, instead of thinking about, wow, this is a good restaurant, I'm going to come back here again. I'm going to press like on the internet and tell people to come here. I'm going to take a picture of it and put it on Facebook, pretend like life is great and I always go to these restaurants, even though it's the first and last time they ever came to that place. That taste that's in your mouth is something that comes from Kedusha. There are holy sparks of Kedusha in everything. In order for it to exist, there has to be holy sparks in it. And in fact, when you chew and digest it, you're extracting those sparks of holiness from within it in order for those holy sparks not to be wasted. Why wasted? Where are they going to be wasted if you're eating them? We're not talking about eat the whole table. We're talking about if it stays as food or just simply goes to the garbage, then these sparks continue to remain lost in the world. One of the jobs, as the Mekubalim teach, the jobs of mankind, jobs of Am Yisrael, is to collect sparks of Kedusha that are in the world. This is one of the reasons of why we were sent to Egypt, because there were sparks of Kedusha in Egypt that Am Yisrael had to collect. And there are different sparks in different parts of the world, all over the place, and they come in different forms and sizes, and there's an opportunity to collect them if a person knows how to sanctify themselves. But Rabbi Elimelech is in essence saying that in everything that's created, whether it be food or anything else, there is holiness. And our job is to make sure that we get the nourishment from that and not allow it to go to the chitzonim, not allow it to go to the externalities, the evil forces. To explain that, a person has to understand that there are two powers that can influence a person's behavior, influence a person's mindset, thought process, things they like, things they don't like, things they're attracted to, things that they are disgusted by. There's holiness and there's evil. If a person is constantly consuming holiness, as a result, they will think holy, they will speak holy, they will want holy, they'll be attracted to holy, and they'll be disgusted by anything unholy, whether it be immorality or all types of perversions in the world, all types of heresy, all types of bad things. This is what is the answer for anyone who saw the film we made a few years ago, A World of Lies, where it talks about the story of Rabbi Akiva and how he was disgusted by these beautiful prostitutes. They were beautiful physically, but they were immoral, disgusting women. And he was disgusted by them to the point where he vomited over and over again the whole night when they tried to approach him, after the king sent them to him. How could somebody get disgusted to that point, where they're vomiting over and over again by something that the average person finds beautiful? This is it. When a person sanctifies themselves to such a level, they are attracted to holiness and disgusted by anything that's unholy. And the most unholy thing is immodesty and immorality. That's the most unholy. So, when a person consumes holiness, whether it be by learning Torah, doing good deeds, and so on, they're attracted naturally to the good. When a person is constantly consumed by immorality, by immodesty, by all types of filth, they're attracted to things that are unholy. They want more of it. They become addicted to it. They want to do things that are unholy. This is why you see many times that people that get exposed, where they are found to be, they did something bad to somebody or things like that, you get to see that this was not a one-time thing. This was a lifestyle of filth, a lifestyle of evil. It's not a one-time thing. And Rabbi Elimelech is in essence saying that there are certain powers of evil that are trying to steal that holiness that you're trying to consume from that food. How could they do it? If a person overeats, if a person is eating things that they don't need to eat, if they're eating for base reasons, then certainly they're not eating for the sake of learning Torah, they're not eating for the sake of Hashem, then those holy sparks are still in it. But instead of those holy sparks nourishing your soul, they nourish the externalities, they nourish the chitzonim, the forces of evil. Then Rabbi Elimelech continues and says as follows: then your soul will derive benefit from the inner holiness of the food, while the remaining waste will be expelled to the externalities. Meaning that whether you like it or not, the food is not going to be consumed completely by your body, by your soul. Some of it has to leave the body. And the goal is for a person to elevate themselves in their cause of eating to such a point that most of the holiness that's in the food is consumed and retained by you, while anything that's left, that's more than what you need to eat, that's being defecated, that a person has to go to the bathroom and remove from their body, is done, that's to the evil forces. So from here you see, wait a minute, so either way they get something, yes, but see this. This is why we have the next segment, where it says, at that moment, meaning that you've eaten food, not all of it is going to be consumed. It's not man, where all of it, as Chazal teaches us, that the man was so holy that Am Yisrael did not have to go to the bathroom. It was all consumed by Am Yisrael. It all became blood. But we're not living in such a world today. Person eats and seems like sometimes they spend more time in the bathroom than they eat. So a person knows that they're going to have to go to the bathroom. Rabbi Elimelech says, yes, but even there, you need to know that there is a purpose. In fact, it's a very important purpose. To go to the bathroom as soon as possible, as soon as you need. Why would a person need to go to the bathroom as soon as possible? Well, after the soul derives benefit from the inner holiness of the food, and the remaining waste is expelled, that remaining waste goes to the evil forces. So you want it out of your body as soon as possible, so they don't benefit from it. And at that moment, says Rabbi Elimelech, you should resolve to relieve yourself as soon as you feel the need, and not allow feces or urine to remain inside your body for even an instant, as they pollute your thoughts and defile your soul. In so many words, what Rabbi Elimelech is saying, what the Kabbalists are saying, what the Hasidim are saying, is that the moment you eat, there's a certain amount of elevation that happens. Some of it is consumed by your body, stays, turns into blood, turns into you. Some of it will not. That part that's not will benefit the externalities, the chitzonim, so long as it's within you. So your goal should be to get it out of your body as soon as possible. Now, obviously, a person can't just go on demand. It cannot certainly go right after they eat, usually. Usually it takes some time. What Rabbi Elimelech is saying is that the moment you feel the need, get it out of your body as soon as possible. Why? Because the longer it stays in your body, the more the chitzonim are damaging your mind, damaging your soul. In fact, it is forbidden for a Jew to hold their body and not go to the bathroom. So much so that the Shulchan Aruch writes, there's a whole section in the Shulchan Aruch about going to the bathroom. In the Halakha, in chapter 3, Halakha number 17, which is the last Halakha in that section, in Orach Chaim, Rabbi Yosef Karo paskins l'Halakha that it is absolutely forbidden for you to withhold going to the bathroom as it is a violation of the Torah. You shall not make yourself disgusting or loathsome. Meaning, whoever delays their elimination of waste from their body is going against the Torah. Why? You're making yourself disgusting. Yeah, but it's in the body. You can't smell it. You can't see it. How is it disgusting? You'll see in a second. But to give you a little bit of understanding, we spoke about this some years ago, where I told people, most people want to criticize Torah sages, but they don't even know how the laws of how to go to the bathroom. This is some of them. To show you how modest and beautiful the Torah sages are, where everything has particular ways about it to have a significant difference between a man and an animal. The first halakha in this says how to conduct in yourself in the bathroom. Again, this is Siman 3 in Orach Chaim, beginning of the Shulchan Aruch. When a person enters the bathroom, he should say, the itkabdu mechubadim, the honor the honor ones. This is not a custom today anymore, but he should be modest in the bathroom, not reveal himself until sitting down. Meaning, when a person is removing their clothes, they shouldn't just start walking around with like they were just born. Only remove when they're about to sit. Two men shall not go together. A person should not talk in the bathroom. Many people have these conversations in the bathroom. Hey, what's going on? You're not allowed to talk in the bathroom. Well, it's not a place to talk. It's a place to do your business and leave. And should lock the door for himself for the sake of modesty. And if one wishes to work in order to help himself remove, in those times, it had to be done in different ways. It has to be done before he goes, not after he goes. Why? Because if you touch yourself in that area, after you've defecated, it's not just filthy, disgusting, and so on, because you could say, oh yeah, I'll clean it. No. It also has tum'ah in it that could lead to danger of witchcraft. Person should not expose themselves beyond the tefach. Meaning that a person has to sit when they're going to the bathroom and not stand there like a statue. But there are certain times that if the person is in the middle of the woods, he's in the middle of the desert, he's in a place where there's no bathroom, obviously there's certain exceptions made, but even then there are laws of how to be modest in those places. Shouldn't force himself exceedingly, because that might cause him to rupture the sphincter. Even that is in a Shulchan Aruch. He shouldn't use his right hand. That's the hand that he puts on tefillin. Why put the left? Should not urinate while standing up, lest he sprinkle on his legs. All these different things that a person thinks, why would this be in a Shulchan Aruch? Yes, Shulchan Aruch tells you how to live. He should not grab his organ. Because that may lead to sins. There's only an exception if someone is married. And lastly, as I said before, he should not delay his cavities for elimination, because that is transgressing the Torah commandment of you should not make yourself loathsome. Further, Rabotai, the Sefer Hasidim from 600 years ago, in section 818, says that a person has to treat his innards the same way that they would treat the outside. If a person found some filth on their clothes, certainly they would do whatever is possible to remove that filth from themselves, remove the clothes from them as soon as possible. So why are you holding it in your body thinking, no, I just got to finish this call, I just got to finish this appointment? The second a person has to go to the bathroom, they should relieve themselves as soon as possible. Why? Just like the filth on the outside you would remove as soon as possible, you should remove whatever filth is inside as soon as possible. One of the great sages of Chassidut, the Maor Vashemesh, in Parashat Yitro, says that someone who does not excrete, meaning go to the bathroom, does not realize that the longer they don't go, the vapors from the waste that's inside their body go to their brain. And the Sefer Darkei Tzedek says these vapors that are affecting the brain end up leading the person to make many sins. Why? Because now he's thinking things that are not proper. He has corrupt thoughts that are impacted by waste, by the chitzonim, by the evil forces. So now, his mind is clouded, her mind is clouded, all of a sudden, they're more attracted to evil than they are to holiness. Yes, this comes from what you view as something physical, but really has a spiritual impact. To such an extent that Rabbi Zusha says, Rabbi Zusha, everyone knows Rabbi Zusha, that's Rabbi Elimelech of Lezhinsk's brother, the forefathers of Chassidut. He says he had a divine message come to him that says that a person holding themselves from going to the bathroom, ends up getting many foreign thoughts that are evil, and from this come the false prophets. Meaning, it's not just evil thoughts leads a person to sin. No, it could be to such a point where these evil thoughts could influence a person to become one of the heretics of the world, one of the false prophets of the world. Meaning, permanent impact on the person. The Gemara in Masechet Brachot, page 55a, has a story of Rabbi Yehuda Bar Ilai that had to go see a matronita. Matronita is like a rich, important, non-Jewish woman. And she was one of the Roman leaders over there, that when they called, the sages had no option. They had to go see them. It's like, just imagine somebody from the White House in America. And when she saw Rabbi Yehuda Bar Ilai, the moment she saw him, she saw the beauty in his face and how it was shiny and how happy he was. Despite the circumstances that are happening in the world, obviously they're under Roman rule, which is evil and horrible and full of idolatry and immorality. But she sees one of the Jewish sages happy and shiny and beautiful. So she says to him, you must either be a shepherd of pigs, meaning you raise pigs, or you work in the merchant cash advance business. Well, she didn't say merchant cash advance business. She said you lend money with interest, which is merchant cash advance business, just in today's language. Why raise pigs or lend money with interest? Why? Because these are two jobs that do not require work. in order to make a lot of money. Nobody has to strain. Merchant cash advance, all you got to do, lend people money with high interest. You don't have to do anything. Now they're your prisoners. Everything they get in, you're charging them 50, 60, 80, 100, 200%. All the money they got, that's profit from the deal they did, goes to you. Why? Because there's no way in the world they can ever pay back the money with such interest. What about someone that raises pigs? Same thing. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to feed them special food like you do with the cows and the chickens and anything else. Simple. You just throw the garbage. Whatever garbage you have in your house, you throw it in the pig pen, and that's it. They eat everything. They eat diapers, they eat people, they eat kids, they eat live, dead, they eat anything. They eat anything. So you don't have to work. All you got to do is that's your garbage disposal. So this matronita says that one of our holy sages must be one of these. And the Gemara says, Rabbi Yehuda Bar Ilai says to her, I swear to you that both of those professions are forbidden for Am Yisrael. You're not allowed to raise pigs, and you're also not allowed to lend money with interest. And any Jew that's in that profession of lending money with interest today is going against the Torah. He's not representing Judaism, even if he has a kippah, even if he has a beard, even if he pretends to be religious, even if he has a letter from some fake rabbi that told him he's allowed to do it. He's a Rasha and he's going against the Torah, says Rabbi Yehuda Bar Ilai. We're not allowed to lend money with interest. Certainly not as a profession. So she said, how could you have such a face? The matronita is asking, how could you have? Look at you, you're so happy, you're so healthy. He says to her, there are 24 bathrooms on the way from my house to the Bet Midrash. And I make sure to use every single one of them on the way. Meaning, I relieve my body from all of the filth, both physical and spiritual filth. Every day. As I go to the Bet Midrash, every bathroom, a little bit more. Gets rid of everything. Hence the physical, hence the spiritual look of beauty that Rabbi Yehuda Bar Ilai has. Now, a fool, like some podcasters that had the misfortune of seeing their foolishness, thinks that when somebody spends time in the bathroom, automatically either it's lack of health or some other. And there was some podcaster that talked about what they think they knew about Rabbi Yoel of Satmar, alav shalom. Rabbi Yoel of Satmar, just so you know, the Baba Sali said about him, he was one of the 36 tzaddikim the whole world stood on. Rabbi Yoel of Satmar was Kodesh Kodeshim. And this fool says, it was known that he spent a lot of time in the bathroom, he probably had digestive problems. No, you moron. He was a Chassid following the rules of Chassidut, the rules of Kedusha, removing any type of filth from his body to the utmost extreme in order to leave his body completely pure and holy. But of course, a fool does not understand the difference because they judge with their eyes, not with their brain. Rav Kook, Shichyeh, have refuah shlema, already told one of the other avrechim when he was in yeshiva that already when he was a young student in yeshiva and they would get food at the yeshiva, what would they get? Ptitim, maybe a little pasta, nothing fancy. In order to eliminate any enjoyment out of food and only to eat for the sake of learning Torah and eliminate any joy from material in this world, he would pour vinegar on any food that he got and just eat for the sake of survival. Now, of course, no one is expected to do that. We're not recommending it, but it shows you there's a difference between the great Torah scholars and your average person out there that may be even learning Daf Yomi. So when someone came to him for blessing and so on. And he saw this. He asked the rabbi if he wants coffee. And he says to the person, what's your kavana when you drink coffee? And the guy naively said, my kavana is put 2 sugars with the coffee and a little bit of milk. What kavana should I have when I drink coffee? So Rav Kook says, no, you're missing out. Coffee in Hebrew is kafeh. Kafeh, gematria, is numerical value of the word, is 185. 185. 2 times 185 is 370. 370 is the number of lights that come down from heaven to bring the blessings to the world. That's why when you drink coffee, drink it 2 sips at a time. Why? Kafeh. 185, 185, 370. So you have 370 of the lights of Kedusha that come down to the world. Now, of course, again, in His Holiness, I don't know how many other people in the world, every time they drink coffee, they drink 2 sips because of this. But it shows you there's a difference. There's a difference, even in the way they drink coffee. There was one time a tish where Rabbi Yaron of Karlin had, and one of the Hasidim in there wasn't exactly a righteous Hasid, let's just say that. He was a student, he was a little bit of Baal Ga'ava, a little bit arrogant, thought that he was better than everybody else. And of course, when a person is a Baal Ga'ava, a person has arrogance, there's no limit of who he thinks he's better, who she thinks she's better than. Little by little, it gets, if without controlling yourself, that arrogance will make you think you're better even than God. That's what happened with Nimrod, that's what happened with Nebuchadnezzar, that's what happened with Hiram ben Melech Tzur, happened with many Reshaim throughout history. That Paro, that the moment the hour played for them and they had good fortune, what seemed like good fortune, they were winning in whatever venture they were doing. Before that, in essence, gave them justification for their arrogance to the point where they not only thought they're better than all people because everyone else was below them, they in essence started thinking they're better than God, and that was the root of their destruction. And unfortunately, this happens regularly, where a person can start thinking that they're better than even their teacher, and before you know it, become a wayward student. Meaning, a person that causes suffering to the people that helped him. So this Chassid was a little arrogant, and but nonetheless, he did what all the other Chassidim were doing. He came to the Tish. Tish is while the Chassidim are sitting on the table, and the Rebbe gives them some Dvar Torah, gives them some of his food. It's a whole beautiful custom that they have. And anyway, Rabbi Yaron of Karlin saw that this student was looking at him as Rabbi Yaron of Karlin was eating an apple. And he already knew, with Ruach HaKodesh, what's in the mind of this student. The student was looking at the Rebbe and says, look, the Rebbe eats apples, I eat apples. What's the difference between us after all? We both eat apples. Why is he the Rebbe and I'm the Chassid? And I'm the student? There's no difference between us. That's what's going in the mind of the student. And the Rebbe knew what's in his mind. And the Rebbe said to the student, do you know what the difference is between you and me? Of course, the Chassid, the little student, is shocked that the Rebbe knew what's in his mind. He said, you know what the difference between you and me and this apple? You want to eat the apple, and therefore you need to make a blessing. Because in order for you to enjoy the apple that you want, there's a blessing that's in your way. So you make the blessing in order to eat the apple. I want to make a blessing. But I need to find something so I can bless Hashem, because I'm thinking about Hashem and I can't believe I haven't blessed Hashem for all the greatness that He's given me every single day. I haven't blessed Him in a few minutes already. What can I do to bless Him? The morning blessings I already did. Can't do them again. The prayer, we already did the prayer, and the next prayer is not up time yet. What can I do blessing from? Well, I can't eat a piece of metal because that's not food. Can't bless it. Okay. Oh, look, an apple. I can make a blessing in order to eat the apple. In so many words, I want to bless Hashem, and my way to bless Him is through this apple. So therefore, when I eat the apple, before I eat the apple, I bless Hashem with all my heart. So much that sometimes I forget I need to eat the apple. That's the difference. When a person looks at Talmidei Chachamim, at Torah scholars, from the outside, from far away, it's impossible for a person to truly evaluate what sacrifices they made and continue to make every single day in order to absorb that holiness they get from the Torah. There are some people that can read countless books but still remain Ama'aret, still remain fools, still remain heretics. There are some that literally elevate themselves with every word. The difference between the two is the behavior, how they run their life. What's the purpose behind everything that they do, including eating? Rabbi Elazar, the one that wrote one of the fundamental teachings of Tikkun HaBrit, he also wrote another book that's called Shulchan HaTa'or. And this Shulchan HaTa'or, he literally talked about food and how a person could literally sanctify themselves to the same level that the Kohanim sanctified themselves when they were eating the korbanot. Because a person that learns Masechet Psachim or Masechet Zvachim or different parts of the Gemara sees that the amount of sacrifices and food that the Kohanim had to eat was absolutely enormous. But yet, you don't hear that every one of them was huge, 500, 600 pounds. That's because the food impacted them in a different way. In Rav Ephraim's Sefer, that's actually in our Kiruv store, you can get copies of this to distribute in your community. This is called a Drasha Shvuit. It's in Hebrew. In Parashat Ki Tetzeh, Rav Ephraim brings a story of the Admor Mikotsk. Admor Mikotsk was a Ish Emet, fire of Torah, and he was known to hold no qualms about rebuking and telling the truth. His own students, anyone, he just could not tolerate any shekel. And there was another Admor, Tzaddik, that he heard about and he respected him, that he invited to the community. That this Admor was known as someone that fasts 1 week at a time. Each week he fasts from Shabbat to Shabbat. But on Shabbat he eats incomprehensible amount of food. And this was all part of his servitude of Hashem in a very unique way. And the Admor Mikosk invited him to the community. In the beginning, this other Admor rejected, said, no, it's not going to be enough food. He says, don't worry, we're going to get the whole community involved. You'll be fine, there'll be plenty of food, I promise you. Okay, he agreed to come. And Admor Mikotsk told all the Hasidim to get involved, bring food, and don't touch any food until our guest is finished. So they came. After the prayer, they had Kiddush. And the guest Admo does the Kiddush and drinks the wine. Then he makes the blessing on the chalot. And he starts eating the challah. Little by little, he finishes the entire challah. He takes the second challah. And little by little, he finishes the entire second challah. Then there were other chalot on the table. These were chalot that the other Hasidim was supposed to eat. Again, no one is allowed to eat until he finishes. He starts eating another challah and another challah. One after another until he finishes all of the chalot. As soon as he finishes, he starts looking around and maybe there's out of food. No, quickly. They brought the pot that had the fish in it. And everyone's waiting for the guest to finish. He starts eating from the pot of fish, and before everyone's eyes, he finishes the entire pot. They thought maybe they're going to have a little bit. We're talking about a lot of people here. He completes the entire pot. Then after that, they bring him some of the chicken they made. He starts eating the pot of chicken. Little by little, he finishes all of the chicken, everything. And he says to them, what is finished? That's it? No, of course. Immediately, they bring the chamin. The chamin, the chulent, is supposed to be in the next day on Shabbat afternoon, Shabbat morning. They bring the pot. And in front of everybody's eyes, he eats and eats and eats and finishes the entire pot. And then they bring him the food that was supposed to be for Sudash Lishit. And he finishes all of that. And he says to them, there's more food? So Admor Mikosk says to him, no, we finished everything. I knew that Kvodo was a malach, but I didn't know that you were a saraf. The Rambam writes in his Mishneh Torah about different types of malachim. Different types. Hashem, in His glory, has endless amount of servants. And the Rambam in Ilchot Yesodei Torah, in chapter 2, halakha number 7, says there are different types of angels that Hashem has. There's the holy chayot, who are above all. There's the ofanim, erelim, chashmalaim, seraphim, malachim, Elohim, sons of Elohim, kruvim, ishim, many different types. Each one has different roles. So one of them is called srafim. These are angels of fire that are mentioned in the Torah. The prophet Isaiah, chapter 6, verse 2, talks about srafim, who are literally, from their burning love of Hashem, they're consumed by their own fire. So the Rav Mikosk says to this Chassid, I knew that you are a malach, I just didn't know that you are saraf, meaning that from his holiness, he was literally able to consume a completely incomprehensible amount of food and it not take any place in his body. Person overeats, immediately they're going to get into a stomachache. And even if they continue, eventually they're going to have to go to the bathroom. You have to make room. This tzaddik, and certain tzaddikim were literally able to turn their body into like the Aron HaKodesh, that did not take up any space in the world. Anyone that learns about the Aron HaKodesh, you learn it from the Torah. It talks about the description of the Kodesh Kodeshim, where the measurements of it, and the measurements from the Aron HaKodesh to the end, from each side, did not make any sense. Why? Because it also gives you the size of the Aron HaKodesh, and you see that with or without the Aron HaKodesh, it's the same exact measurement. Why? Because the Aron HaKodesh did not take any space in the world. People could literally sanctify themselves. These tzaddikim sanctified themselves that they were able to consume food in such a fashion that it did not occupy space. In fact, Rabotai Karim, Rabbi Chaim Volozhin says in his Nefesh Chaim that a person can sanctify themselves to the point when they're eating that even if they're eating bad food that's harmful, it will not harm them. And one of the examples of it, story I told you some time ago, but it's always worth repeating, is Rabbeinu HaKadosh, Rav Ovadia Yosef Alav HaShalom, it was known that he would come back each night from the shiurim, and he would sit down with the Rabbanit, but sometimes he would come very late. So the Rabbanit always told him, please, I made you food, I'm going to leave the pot, eat when you come home. So one night, he comes home, sees there's a pot, starts eating. The next day, the Rabbanit comes to the rabbi and says to him, how come you didn't eat? He says, no, Rabbanit, I ate. Of course I ate. He says, you ate? Yes, of course I ate. You had a pot over there. I ate it. She says, but the pot is full. What do you mean you ate? He goes, no, I'm going to lie to you. No, I ate. She knows the rabbi doesn't lie. So she goes back to the kitchen and then she finds out what happened. What happened? In those days, if somebody wanted to make starch in order to make the collars of dress shirts hard, today everything is done in laundromats and dry cleaners. But in those days, somebody wants to make starch, they had to cook it in a pot, and then the next day they would, once it's finished, they would put it on the collar, and that would make the collars hard. So the Rabbanit was cooking starch, but Rav Ovadia didn't pay attention to what he's eating. He was thinking about Torah. He saw a pot, started eating. He figured that's the food. He didn't realize there's another pot right next to it that's the actual food. So he started eating it. Put some bread in it, started eating, dipping the bread like it's soup. So to make the Rabbanit laugh, he told her, yeah, I tasted that it was a little bit salty. You usually don't make your food salty. The point being is, somebody eats starch, it's certainly not going to be good for you. But when someone sanctifies themselves to such a point where literally they do not even realize what they're eating, because their only purpose of eating is to serve Hashem, that's a person that's not going to get hurt, even if they eat something bad. Now, the point of all of this, as I said already in the beginning, it's not for you to go and start fasting every day or changing your lifestyle in such a way that you're going to bite off more than you can chew. The point of all this is for a person to understand the right perspective. When you think about tzaddikim, we're not just talking about tzaddikim that lived 2, 3, 4, 500 years ago. We're talking about people that live today, some of which I know, Baruch Hashem, and have the privilege of knowing, and learn with, and socialize with, and ask questions from, that literally take their life in the same fashion, do all types of things that to the average person are completely unacceptable, completely not in the realm of thinking. When a person gets the privilege of meeting Torah scholars, they get to meet different species, because they might as well be. The average Torah scholar may not do any of what I just said, but those that elevate themselves to become big Talmidei Chachamim certainly do a lot of things in order for that Torah to nourish their soul in a way that's beyond anyone else around them, which include all types of sacrifices, whether it's in their eating habits, their diet, their way of life. Every aspect of their life is reviewed and is, in essence, altered in order for them to dedicate every part of their being to Hashem. Some more, some less. But I can tell you one thing in common for all Torah scholars that you hear about that are Gdolei Ador, Torah giants, big Talmidei Chachamim, all of them have a very, very different life than your average person out there, not because of how many books they read, but rather because of what they take from those books and apply to their lives, what they consume out of these books and how it affects their soul, how it affects their behavior. So when a fool says that something negative about a Torah scholar, or needless to say about the Talmud or the Zohar or something else, you can't help yourself but become really upset at how foolish these comments are, because these people that they're insulting, literally they might as well be a different species. They're angels among men. And there's nothing in common between them and the fools that insult them. But your average person doesn't know that, because the average person thinks it's just books. It's just knowledge. So now they think they have some, Chat GPT and all types of AI, so they figure they have the knowledge, even though it's the computer that has the knowledge, not them. The reality is, Rabotai, the more we understand the sacrifices needed in order to elevate ourselves as people, as servants of Hashem, as Torah scholars, or simply just as individuals, the more a person understands the sacrifices needed, the more they'll be able to understand those that have already made the sacrifices. And may it be His will that we'll be able to understand it, to learn from them, and Be'ezrat Hashem follow in their footsteps to each of our abilities, and Be'ezrat Hashem succeed in following their footsteps and serving Hashem to our maximum capacity. Thank you very much for learning with me. It's glad to be back. Be'ezrat Hashem will learn again later this week. Anyone that wants to support and help these tzaddikim in our kollels, whether it's the kollel in Yerushalayim or in Tveria, and a couple of other ones that Baruch Hashem we're involved in, you can donate on the website, be'ezrathashem.org. You could obviously help all the other wonderful things that the organization is doing. And most importantly, you could share these lectures and help us reach every corner of the world, to every person in the world that wants to know the truth, because the truth is available to them, Baruch Hashem. Thank you very much for learning with me. Be'ezrat Hashem will learn again soon. Kol Tuv.